Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
And this week on the show, we are recording our final Bad Batch episode. Sarah, it has come to an end after 3 years with Clone Force 99.
So long.
Oh, man. It feels like just yesterday we were beginning the series with that first episode on Kamino when we met Omega. And here we are now. Oh, boy. I was a ball of emotions for this episode, and we'll get into that. But welcome back. We're here. It's been a couple of weeks since our last Bad Batch recap. Schedules have been busy. Other things have been popping up, but we wanted to make sure we finished this journey with each other because it's been a fun one.
Yes, and we would be doing Omega a disservice if we did not talk about the end of her journey in this show, because we love her. Our sweetest, precious baby girl who is everything in the entire world. I love her with my entire heart. I can't, if I start to talk about her, I will sob. So, we had to finish it out. We had to finish it out, even if we're late, because Omega is my entire heart, really.
Yeah, this was a real feel-good ending to this storybook. And I'm so happy that we get to talk about yet another happy ending from the folks who brought you Star Wars Resistance. And we'll get into that. But our last discussion episode, we ended on that two-parter, Identity Crisis and Point of No Return. We're not going to talk too much on episodes 12 to 14 because we want to dive into the meat and potatoes of the series finale, The Cavalry Has Arrived. But maybe just a couple notes on Juggernaut, Into the Breach, and Flash Strike. Maybe we just go high level, like anything that stood out to us. And I think most of these episodes were really a setup to get us back to Tantus and set up some key players. But I think first and foremost, let's just start with the return of Admiral Rampart, which Noshir Jalal was very, very good. Thinking
He's
that we weren't going to connect the dots.
They didn't call me. It would be cool, but it didn't happen. Okay, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man situation.
I was going to say, he went to the Andrew Garfield School of Lying.
Yeah.
When people on Twitter were asking, hey, is Rampart in the season? He's like, nah. This was fun. It was fun to have Rampart in. I love the prison break. I love them throwing Rampart around like a rag doll in his prison jumpsuit. I like a bearded Rampart, especially. It's different. I don't know how you felt about that. What did you feel about the Rampart beard?
It's different.
Yeah.
All that needs to be said.
Okay. We'll leave it at that for PG.
Rampart's just a guy, but he's a guy with a beard, tucks hair behind ear.
Yeah. It's the year of the beard. Elzar's got the beard. Rampart's got the beard. Who else is going to have a beard?
It's because they've seen some shit. That's why our characters get beards. Will Lark, throw it back to
Kelnaka has a beard, technically.
Kelnaka?
Yeah. I mean, I know he's a Wookiee, but that counts. There is hair on that little chin.
I guess. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know that he's like a solitary Jedi, so he's probably seen some stuff that's led him to a lonely life of sorts.
Should we do an episode on Star Wars beards? Like ranking Star Wars beards? Let's put that one. Let's put a pin in it. Put a pin in it?
If we run out of ideas, guys,
there's something there.
And we have nothing else to talk about, we will do a top 10 Star Wars beard.
The great beard off
episode. For what reason? No reason.
No reason. Just for
fun. Yeah.
Because we can.
Who doesn't like a handsome character with a beard,
Yeah. We make the rules. I edit the episodes and it works.
If we're going to do that though, I just want to make sure that Porter Engle is on the list.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, not important right now. Not important right now.
But yeah, otherwise, what did you think of the return of Rampart, needing him to get to Tantus? I mean, looking back, it kind of feels like, oh, of course, that's the guy that they got to get to find out where Omega is. But did you find his return surprising? Were you happy to see how maybe not happy, but like intrigued to see like where he slotted into the plot and like his purpose?
Yeah, totally. And I think that it was valuable that he was brought back. It makes sense. I was happy to see him back. I kind of thought their whole dynamic was pretty fun. And there's also like the difference between Rampart and Hemlock, and I thought that was really interesting to see. I think in like the final episode. So yeah, it was a time, and he kind of adds a different layer on the team since we already know how the team functions.
Yeah, and you can't quite trust him just yet. I feel like I was getting there, kind of. And then, of course, we'll talk about what happens in the finale, but you just never know. He is sort of just like all the rest of the Imperials who may cower a little bit, and then the moment that they think they can get ahead, they kind of come right back out of their cave or in their shell, and they do what they do best, which is connive and lie and step on other people's throats. But I will say I loved the ending of Into the Breach. That entire docking sequence when they're trying to attach their shuttle to the other vessel that's going into hyperspace, because like that's their one shot, echoes on the ship, they're trying to get on the shuttle, and like the music and the buildup of that moment honestly might be one of my favorite moments in all of Star Wars animation. As an Interstellar fan, the docking sequence, when when Matthew McConaughey is like, "Oh, we got to do it. It's it's like we have to. There is no other option." And he like does the whole thing, and that's what it reminded me of. It was just like, this is do or die. There is no other option. This is it. If we lose this moment, that's it. Omega's lost forever. Like there's no chance. So I really felt the tension and the stakes in that moment. And I don't know. Star Wars is just so good when it's fast and intense. That's proof right there.
That's like, it sounds like you love George Lucas.
Yeah.
Yes. I also really enjoyed, Omega walking into on Tantus and meeting the other kids.
Yes.
And seeing Omega have her one way out moment. I was like,
yeah,
this is so good. She is so determined. She's so, powerful. You can tell she's really coming to her own and is ready to take on this challenge to not only help herself, but to help the kids and the other clones. And like, this is the culmination of everything. You could really feel that. And I felt like that was really purposeful and well done.
Oh, absolutely. I love that you said it's her one way out.
It totally was though. She was like,
yeah,
we're gonna do it, guys.
Yeah, and Tantus is not all that dissimilar from Narkina 5, with the architecture and just the levels of security and the watchful eye of the Empire. So I think that's a great place to transition to the finale. So the cavalry has arrived. Sarah, thinking of this as a series finale for the Bad Batch, did it meet your expectations? Did it leave you feeling fulfilled? Like looking at the episode overall, and we'll talk more about the moments and the details in a bit here. But I wanted to start with that like high level thought of just where it landed for you emotionally and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think overall I felt really good about this finale. Emotionally, it left me in a good spot, which I feel really happy about. There are things that I wish it had done. A couple of things, but I bet we'll talk about them. Somebody being dead. I'm surprised that they're not alive. Shocker. Anyway, but overall, I feel really happy about Omega's story. I feel good about where the batch ended up. And yeah, it had elements of other endings that have made me really happy. And I'm not necessarily surprised by that because it's the same team behind Resistance. And, we absolutely adore the end of Resistance. It is maybe the best, top 3 Star Wars endings for me. And I'll talk about my other 2 in here as well, because this ending did really have elements of all the things that I love about Star Wars endings when they're good for me, at least. So, yeah.
Star Wars, in my opinion, is all about happy endings. And I wish everything had those happy endings. Although I guess if everything had a happy ending, then the happy endings we do get maybe wouldn't feel as special. But like ultimately, Star Wars is a fairy tale, and Star Wars is supposed to be an uplifting story about, the heroes versus the villains, and about good versus evil, and about family and love and friendship. And I think when we have stories that keep a lot of those families and friendships and love relationships intact and keep them strong, and keep them growing based on what was experienced and based on what those heroes went through and those families went through and those friends went through together. I think that's like when it can then lead into like even greater storytelling. And so for me, like I left the show feeling like, oh my God, we're just starting. Like this is just a beginning for Omega. You know, the Bad Batch, Hunter, Crosshair, and Wrecker might be closing their book on their role in this fight. But they still tell Omega, you know, if you need us, we'll be here, right? But we want a little bit of retirement. But it leaves you with that like hopeful feeling of Omega is on to bigger and better things. She's leaving this part of the story much more independent and stronger and brave than when she came into it. You know, it's hard to think about the Omega that we met 3 years ago compared to the Omega that we see in the final shots of the series. And it is, I cried. I cried quite a bit at the end of the show. I did not expect it to elicit that kind of emotional reaction from me, but I found myself getting choked up quite a bit, to the point of me like kind of ugly crying, tears going down my face. I think you had a similar reaction as well. Like what were you feeling?
You don't have to say you think. You heard my voice memo of me sobbing and being like, I love Omega so much. That was literally it. I was like, I love her.
Yeah. Was it just like the happy ending and just her embarking on this new journey and also like Hunter knowing she'd be okay? Just kind of all of that happening at once in those moments.
I think for me, it was seeing her grown up and seeing her be confident and brave. I think that's what it was like. It was like a pride. It was a pride in how her journey ends in this story, and how, you know, the glimpse of the future we have is like she's going to go and do bigger things. And I think that was really beautiful. And also I think the parental moment between Hunter and Omega was like heartbreaking, really beautiful. You know, the moment where, you know, she's like, I'm ready. And he's like, I know you are, but I'm not. And I just thought that was like heartbreaking and honest and trusting. Because like, you know, we're adults, but we were once children. And I think that, you know, our parents see us still as their kids, you know, for better or worse, some days for better and some days for worse. Right. But, you know, at some point they have to realize that they're, you know, they got to let us fly free, in order to go and succeed in life. So I just felt that, yeah, I'm not a parent. I felt that as a child, you know, like
I felt that as a parent. I'm like, this is the first I've heard of this.
Surprise. I have an adult child.
Surprise. My child is my black chrysanthemum plushie.
He's my son and I love him.
My boy. That's my boy. Yeah. And I think coming off of the final moments on Pabu with Emery and Echo talking, and I know we're kind of like jumping ahead in the episode, but I think this is the thing that's sticking with us. And we want to start with that because it's that note that we leave off on. But Emery saying a childhood's not something we ever had. Our lives have never been our own. And Echo's like, until now, right? Like our lives can be our own going forward. And Hunter tells Omega the same thing. Like we get to choose who we want to be, whatever we want, kid, right? And so for Hunter, that was being a dad. For Omega, it was just being a kid. And for a while, that was all they needed. That was all they needed to be. But yeah, this was a real baby bird leaving the nest moment of Omega saying, okay, I wanted to be a kid for a while, and that's perfectly fine. Now I want to be a rebel. Now I want to be a pilot. I want to make a difference, right? And we saw inklings of that with her as a kid. Like she was always the one questioning what is their purpose. She feels like the group can do more, that they can play a bigger role in the war and do some other stuff. And, you know, we're not leaving our brothers behind. Like that was always at the forefront for her. And now she gets to take that advocacy into her own hands and carve out her own destiny and start her new life. You know, like one part of her life is over. It's the new beginning for her. And that's like the power of growing up, right? Like you don't have to be the same person you've always been. You leave, you move on from people you loved. You leave the place that you've called home. And you create a new journey. And so for me, I also think I resonated with that a little bit of like, wow, this is, you know, leaving home is a little scary. And for a while, Omega didn't really have a home. Right. And Pabu became someplace safe. And I'm so glad it did, because like you and I had talked about that, like, oh, I hope Pabu is like the safe haven for people. And it ended up being that way.
And it totally did, because the time we see it as an epilogue planet, like it's way more built out than it was when we were there, you know, in the show's timeline for most of it.
Yeah. And like it's implied that clones stay there, you know, if they choose to. So it becomes a clone safe haven in some ways. Who knows in all of those years how many clone refugees that Echo and Rex brought back to Pabu to live their life. I think that's very inspiring. I would love to still see a spinoff series maybe with Echo and Rex. I think that would be kind of fun. I know it would be like another clone centric
never-ending
series.
clones.
But considering like a clone helmet is in like the Lucasfilm animation logo, I guess that is to be expected at this point. That maybe animation is that clone trooper story medium, which I don't hate. I don't love, but I like it quite a bit.
You can't get more Bebos, you know, if you're always doing clones.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we still need a diversification, but I think there is always a place for storytelling about the clones, and yeah, just like what a beautiful ending. That final shot of them all sitting on the tree in Pabu, like that was like a picture moment of, you know, if somebody was there taking a photograph, like that would be in the cockpit of Omega's ship.
Oh,
you know. Which, let's talk about that for a second.
Don't
what was in her ship?
Wait, how? We're not even that far into this episode. Do you want me to sob? Like, don't do that to me.
And this also might be a point of criticism for us too, as well. But
where's
in
Tech?
the ship we see her doll.
Donkey?
What was the doll's name? It was
Lula.
Lula, that's right. Sorry, I'm blanking for a second. Lula is on the chair. Gonki is there, which I'm so happy Gonki's still going strong after all these years. And then Tech's goggles on the hood of the ship for her always to remember. And, you know, I think maybe I have some hesitations with like the remembrance of Tech this season. And I think you and I both thought that was because he was still alive and they were going to reveal that at some point. And I was still in my delusions this episode.
Yeah.
I'm
still in
times.
my delusions.
Yeah.
Even now.
Yeah. What did you make of that moment, and where are you feeling about the closure around Tech as a character?
I think we could have done more. Mm-hmm. That's probably my biggest criticism of this finale is like, I think, and maybe the season is like, I don't know. I didn't feel like his death was necessary. And I think there were like 1,000 ways he could have been brought back. And so I still feel like that feels unresolved for me. I think in the moments we get of like remembrance of Tech is nice and worthwhile. And like this moment here at the end is really nice, but it's something that I leave going, why did he die? You know? I don't know. It definitely feels like it's one of those ideas where I really could have seen everyone live. And it still could have been realistic and it still could have been valuable and there still could have been growth when everybody living. So I don't know. If how they handled Tech was totally satisfying for me, but like the moments when they do remember him are functionally good and emotionally important. So I'll take it.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I wish there was a little bit more done with his remembrance. The goggles were a much needed touch right at the end. I think if that wasn't there, he would have largely been absent from the final episode, which there was a mention of him that I'll get to in a second, but you know, I would have liked some sort of maybe memorial or like a scene where they're at a grave that they created for him or something. I don't know, like something to say like, hey, you know, we're giving our final words, or maybe Omega is at the grave right before she leaves. I don't know, you know, something along those lines to kind of feel like we're talking to Tech in a way, you know, like we're actually speaking to him, not just remembering. And I like that quite a bit. There was the moment early in the episode where Crosshair makes the point that when Tech died, Clone Force 99 died. And that was a moment for me. I was like, oh shit, this is getting kind of deep.
Right.
And he's like, if we all go in there, not all of us are making it out. You know, don't let Tech's sacrifice be in vain, basically.
Right.
We can't just pretend like we're the same Clone Force as before. And the group says like, no, you're not just going to be another tech crosshair. Like you're not going in there to martyr yourself. Like we're all in this together. We know the stakes, we know the potential consequences, and we're ready to take that risk.
Yeah, and Crosshair was ready to sacrifice himself. And there was a moment there when I was like, uh-oh, I'm not doing this, because I think that would have been a really disappointing outcome. So I'm glad everybody rallies around him.
Yeah, and he made a comment that he's like, this is what I deserve, which I think Star Wars has a very complex history with characters who are seeking redemption, and they usually end up dying in some sort of sacrificial way.
Right.
And so that's what I thought this was shaping up to be. And I think immediately, Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao and all of them squashed that bug. They're like, nope, not today. You're not just going to be a sacrifice. Like and I think when we think about like the importance of Tech's death, like I try to think of it in this moment of like, do they make this choice if Tech didn't die? Like, I think in some ways maybe Tech caused them or forced them to reckon with their own mortality, right? Because they were a clone force that always had a 99% success rate. They were like unbeatable. They were amazing at what they did. They were, as a group, they were unstoppable. And then they finally were stoppable. And so it kind of forces them to evaluate the risks more intensely. And so when they do make that choice to go in, it's not just, oh, we're going in with the surety that we're going to win this battle. They're going in knowing they could very well lose and die. And do they have that same sort of motivation and clarity if Tech is still there, right? You think there's something there maybe, like with that, just that clarity and knowing that they're not invincible?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a clarity there, but I think there's also like his absence gives an understanding, an even greater understanding of like keeping Crosshair around, in the sense that like he's just as valuable as any other member of the team. Because they could have said, okay, go ahead, and like cared about him, but not felt like actively keeping him alive was like the most important. I don't know. I'm saying the same thing that you're saying, I think, but yeah.
How did you feel about the super soldiers when they do infiltrate the base and Hemlock?
You mean
unleashes... not Tech? Okay. So like when I said I still had my delusions, I was like settled going into this episode. I was like, Tech is dead. That's it. End of story.
You were?
Right? I was fairly certain. I was like, we only have an episode left. Like, yes, it's an hour, but like realistically, it's not going to happen. And as soon as Hemlock stepped in that room and like the first case opened with the red like smoke coming
Tech?
out, I was like, wait, Tech?
Tech? Yeah.
And so I'm a proud Tech truther until the very end. Like I'm kind of happy. I sipped the Kool-Aid right up till the final moments.
I have no regrets about my tinfoil suit tailored to my measurements about Tech, because what's so bad in wanting everybody to live?
And we even got like the shot from behind of the head. I was like, oh, it's gonna be Tech. And then they put a helmet on and I was like, damn it.
Yeah, like what's up with that? CX, what is it? Is this character
CX2,
name CX?
I think.
CX2? We literally hardly knew you.
Well, yeah, and they were all fighting each other, and then CX2 is there. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the moment. They're going to be fighting, and the helmet's going to come off. It's going to be Tech, and they're going to be like, whoa, Tech. And then he got speared in the chest with like a electro thing.
Right. I feel like that because it was this, a super clone and, without the same chip as everybody else. We did get that like really cool fight earlier in the season, which I thought was cool, but like, I feel like our CX2 other super clones was a little bit wasted.
Yeah.
Not as fully utilized as it could have been, emotionally at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was fully convinced that was going to be Tech.
Tech truthin'.
Yeah. They kind of reminded me of the Knights of Ren. Did you get that? Sure. Did you get that vibe? They were giving Knights of Ren quite a bit.
No, I'll be real honest with you. Sorry to the Knights of Ren. Sorry to Applek in particular, but I don't think about the Knights of Ren often. Personally.
Yeah. I've seen some people saying like, is that guy in the Acolyte trailer a Knight of Ren, like with the teeth mask? Who knows?
Teeth. The Tooth Fairy could be just Ren himself.
It could be the original
Could
Ren.
be the original Ren, but like the Lego version.
Or it could actually be Tech, like we said. Tech fell into the World Between Worlds, and now he's in the Acolyte era. Yeah.
And he's evil.
Yeah, what did you think? I feel like this group posed the biggest danger the batch has faced ever. I was kind of worried.
CX2?
Well, CX2 and everybody else. Like when they're in that hangar that's just on fire after the Zillow Beast, thanks to Omega and crew, wreaks destruction on the hangar. Them actually facing a dangerous foe for once, and like they end up getting captured. Like I was kind of scared,
right,
about who was going to make it out of that fight.
I mean, I wasn't as scared. I was just vibing with the action.
I was also vibing, but like Crosshair ends up losing a hand, like the hand.
Yeah, that did happen. Not vibing with that action. I was like, oh, not great.
I was having a conversation with my wife, and she had talked about how, I guess like she had heard some conversations online about like the symbolism with the hand, and the hand being the thing that's been shaking, this whole time for Crosshair. And it's kind of like that one last vestige of him as a prisoner, of him as somebody who got tortured, of maybe his past life. He used that hand to aim so many weapons at so many different people. Like that is a part of him that has now quite literally been chopped off, separated, left behind, and extinguished from the rest of his body. That is kind of renewed. And I don't know, I thought it was really interesting. Like it's almost like he's leaving that part of him behind, the part of him that remembers like all those awful nights as a prisoner and just like who he was, and grappling with who he was.
That's thoughtful. I like that. That's really interesting. And yeah, it could be seen perhaps as like a clean break from that part of himself.
Mm-hmm. I was just happy he made it out.
Yeah.
Like again, the redemption characters. Tam got a similar treatment in Star Wars Resistance, right? Like everybody needs to go rescue Tam and bring her back from the brink. On the other side of this battle, we have Omega and the kids, and they're climbing the chasm. In a way, like the kids are Omega's bad batch, right? Like she's the hunter in the situation, and all of those kids are her Omega, leading them through. They're trusting her, putting full confidence in her plan, unleashing the Zillow Beasts. So much fun. I think there was just so much fun with this kid crew. Like, how did you feel about like their little form of rebellion that they undergo?
I love them. They're precious, and I hope they never have to do anything like that ever again in their entire lives.
Hopefully
like
not.
let them be kids.
Especially the teeny one that was crying the whole time.
The baby.
And I love when the Zillow Beast starts eating all the stormtroopers. And he stops crying, and like one kid's like, wow, this keeps him quiet, really?
Legend. Yeah, I think that they're a good crew, and I think that, seeing peers of Omega's, being led by Omega was really special. And her getting to be among kids, even in this moment that's really dire, she's helping other kids, which is really special because she's like never really around kids often.
Would you say this is like the inflection point of her life, where later on in the flash forward, she's thinking of what happened on Tantus, right? Like that's probably their last battle, right? Because we have to assume for years they're just removed, no more.
Yeah.
Right. I got to imagine like Omega for all those years is thinking, wow, that one time I helped those kids on Tantus. I want that feeling again.
I mean, I don't think that like Omega's just been like lounging around, for the past however many years. But I think that she's ready to lead again in a bigger way than what she's doing on Pabu. She's probably a leader among her friends. She's a leader in the area. People respect her as a young person, but I think she says, oh, I can handle this. I've handled tough things before, and I can handle them again.
Yeah, totally. Ready to lead again. I love that. I think she's inherently a leader, whether
100%. Yeah.
by nature or nurture or a combination of both. I think definitely both. Raised with the right group of clones, the Bad Batch. You're our kid. You always will be, Omega. Rip my freaking heart out, please. But the moment when her and Echo reunite finally, and this is when we get that clone liberation from within Tantus. This is a very vindicating moment. I don't know, like the moment of like all the cell doors opening and the clones coming out and finally having that moment of rescue. Like finally, we got it. I mean, in a sense, it's maybe not as fleshed out as I would have loved, but like the visual motif of it all, like just the freedom that they experience is so heartwarming.
Can I say something bold?
Oh, please.
This is what Tross needed.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've said my bold thought. Yeah, I'm really glad we got this here, and I'm really glad, we see Omega looking out for everybody in this way. And it also reunites us with Nala Se one last time.
Oh my gosh. You want to talk a bit about Nala Se's final act of defiance?
R.I.P. Nala Se. I loved you. I've loved the Kaminoans since I was a wee child. They're special to me. No reason why. I just really think that they're cool. Anyway, she stands up against Rampart and against Hemlock and against the Empire and blows all the data to smithereens.
Icon.
And I think that is a fitting end for her, as sad as I am to say that. But, the Kaminoans, brought the clones into the world and they'll take the clones out, in a way, ensure that they're not used for anything worse than that they've already been used for. So I thought that was pretty powerful end, but I was also like, R.I.P. Nala Se. You cared about Omega. You cared.
And freaking Rampart, man.
Queen.
Like, come on. We gave you a new life. You could have taken the high road.
Come on.
Really?
Come on.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the Imperial Admiral tree. They're all just slugs. It's a dog world. Doggy dog world.
Sorry to Rampart's beard, but bye.
Yeah. See ya. Now it's on fire because it blew up.
Exactly.
Haha.
Sad. But also
extremely fitting though that's a confrontation between the Kaminoans, like you said, who like pretty much started the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire, and the Empire who is perpetuating the Empire, the Empire's rule and dominance, right? These two forces facing down on the precipice of a new breakthrough in like technology and the Emperor's plan, and it's just thwarted by both of their own. I mean, more or less Rampart's arrogance and vying for power, but like Nala Se, I think in some ways is reckoning with like, we kind of played a part in this. We're partly responsible.
Oh yeah. I mean, Nala Se and the Kaminoans were never in on the big picture necessarily, but you could talk about the ethics of cloning otherwise, and I mean, there's something to be said there. So, yeah.
Or at least I don't know about Nala Se. I knew Lama Su was like all in on the clone chip, like they knew about that, because I know that's kind of explored in the Fives arc. We think back.
Okay.
I don't know like Nala Se's participation in that necessarily. I think she's probably like mostly in the know. Lama Su, I feel like was kind of more of the mastermind, whereas like Nala Se had more of a heart than he did.
I mean, Nala Se always had more of a heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if you put Lama Su in this situation, does he make the same choice? Probably not.
No.
But also it's like that moment where she's like, oh, the Kaminoans' science won't fall into the Empire's hands. Like she's taking ownership of it in that moment too. Not just like, hey, I'm sorry I did all this, but like, no, this is our work. You stand here amongst my achievements, not yours. That's my my Nala Se impression. Of Krennic.
Yeah. Nala, are you? Yeah. So you're doing Krennic as Nala Se?
Yeah.
I had to think about that. Oh boy.
Is
Okay.
Nala Say the last Kaminoan? I know we've asked this question before. Are the Kaminoans now
feel
an
like
extinct
there's
species?
no way there are only like 4 Kaminoans on the entire planet of Camino, but like none of the Kaminoans from Topoka City are around.
No. To be
But
fair,
you
we've
know what,
only ever
Brad?
seen like what, 5?
Yeah. But if no more Kaminoans exist in the Jedi archives, then they don't exist. So
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, the Jedi say no more.
Mm-hmm.
So we should just believe them. Take them at their word.
I would love for a Kaminoan just to show up somewhere in the background. We can confirm that they lived on. They lived mighty lives.
We can have like the Kaminoan diaspora. Like maybe they've gone to other planets because it was too rainy on Camino.
Yeah. Now they live on
flooded.
Tatooine.
It flooded their cities, and so now they go to other places. I don't know.
Are you saying you want another Star Wars TV show that takes place on Tatooine and it's about the Kaminoan?
No, I think you mentioned Tatooine actually, and not me.
I mean, you said no rain, so one would insinuate the only other planet in all of the Star Wars that doesn't have rain on it is Tatooine, the one desert planet besides Jakku.
What about Dantooine? Does it rain on Dantooine?
I think it rains on Dantooine. I know it sounds similar, Sarah,
but it's not.
But not all the desert planets are the same. Come on.
Oh,
it's 2024. Get with the program.
My bad.
Nala Say, you will be missed.
Yes.
I already miss you. I miss you already. Come back.
Can we talk a little bit about Emery's change of heart?
Sure.
Have we talked about Emery?
Not
I don't
entirely,
think so.
no, but let's talk about her here.
I think like we definitely like got the setup in previous episodes that she could make a bold choice and do the right thing. And I'm really glad that we saw that in this episode. I'm really glad that she kind of allied with Echo in order to help find Omega. Like, and in realizing that for her, she admits that she was wrong and she's working to do something right. And I'm going to just, put her whole arc together. Can we talk about her kind of end moment with Echo?
Yeah.
So Echo's like, Emery, Senator Chuchi may really appreciate your testimony. And she's like, I've got a lot to make up for. Okay. What's one of my other very favorite Star Wars endings? Brad, you're
Victory's
on the
Price.
hot mic. That's
Victory's
right.
Price. And without giving too much away for folks who haven't, but broad strokes.
Victory's Price is a beautiful, perfect ending. Please go read Alphabet Squadron. It's everything to me. But it has a perfect ending, in my opinion. And it also kind of has this sort of like hopeful vision of the future, in which people can do better. People who have done bad things can do better. And I love that we got echoes of that here. Echo. No pun intended. Pun always intended.
Is there an echo in here?
No, Echo's in another room.
Oh, true.
I have a dog.
Right, your dog Echo. Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that this was just like a really perfect way for her story to end because it gives it a lot of hope and also like ties it back to the couple of episodes that we've gotten with Senator Chuchi and her fighting for clone rights and all that stuff. So I thought that was really, really great. And I really loved that.
Imagine a world in which our Star Wars characters who have done something wrong or something very bad in some cases get a chance to do better, like you said, and get a chance to see another day and not necessarily be totally forgiven and absolved, but to try to do good. Thinking of you, Ben Solo, the things that you could have done had you not died. Still not over it.
Had you been allowed to say more than just ow.
But you make a great point because, like, yeah, Alphabet Squadron, the trilogy had that beautiful ending where it was this thought of like reconciliation and reintegration into society, and that thought is kind of extended into The Mandalorian season 3 with with some characters there in that one episode in Coruscant. But yeah, I think that's so important because it's just like, us in real life don't make the same gravity of mistakes that people in Star Wars do. But like, if people in Star Wars don't have any hope of doing better and making better choices, like what hope do we have? Like, that's all these stories
Right.
are trying to tell us at the end of the day. Right. And I don't think necessarily that this episode is to say like, oh, Emery is a good person. You know, like she admits she's not, and she admits that she has a lot of work to do, like you said, but like her admitting that and recognizing those are steps she has to take is like part of that journey. And I'm glad that she gets to take that journey and learn from it and grow, right? Like that's all we can ask for these characters.
100%. And I thought that was really perfect for her.
Yeah. And same with Crosshair. He's going to follow a similar path. He's made a lot of bad choices. But he's given a chance to be who he wants to now. It's not who you were, it's who you choose to continue being. That's the story of redemption in Star Wars. But somebody who doesn't get redeemed, Hemlock, piece of shit until the very end.
And boy, does he have an end.
He does have an end. This final battle sequence with the clones rushing into the training room, which is like also, it echoes of that first episode of the Bad Batch where
It's like you just said echo. That's so funny.
I know. It echoes the series premiere of the Bad Batch where like Tarkin is on Kamino and he's like overseeing their training and he's watching the Bad Batch do their training simulation. The room is set up the same. I imagine there's probably some similarities that you can draw there in the fighting style, but the moment when Hemlock's like, I have you, and she's like, but I have them, and they all start breaking out and fighting everybody. I'm like, this is such good TV. I love it. It's so good.
That was great. And it's like, that was, a great moment of the team coming together and there being like a really big moment of hope as we get through this sequence. But I think we should talk mostly about we're out on a rail-less, ledge once again.
In the rain.
I wonder if anybody's going to fall.
I think last time I was here was Rogue One, and that didn't end too well for some people.
Right, and then before that was The Force Awakens. Also didn't end well.
Right, yeah.
Right. Anyway, so we could have seen this one coming, guys, but it was better than we could have ever imagined.
We have talked about the moment, the shot, take the shot. And we thought it was going to happen in Point of No Return when he needs to shoot the tracker onto the ship. And I was like, dang, I'm sad. That didn't happen. This was so much better. This is like waking up on Christmas morning and there's like 20 presents under the tree. Like, oh my God, delicious food.
And it's literally everything that you asked for on your wish list.
Right.
Like Santa read that letter.
Right. You got the bike, you got the Lego set, you got all of it.
Get the American Girl doll.
Yeah, totally. I can't relate,
and
but I'm
the
there
hair
with
braiding
you.
set.
Yes, totally. The setup for this was so good, and just the rain and Hemlock holding Omega hostage and this like confrontation on the bridge, so good. Right, like Hemlock has basically won this fight. But what he doesn't realize is the union of these three people and how strong their bond is. He just sees things as assets. He doesn't see the relationships. He doesn't see the humanity in things, right? He's just like, you're a subject and that's it. He underestimates that.
Underestimates Omega specifically. But I love them. I love the moment when they walk out there and he's like, they won't hurt you. Like they need you alive. And she's like, or he's like, they won't hurt me because they need you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Then she's like, they won't hurt me. She plays it back to him. And I'm like, oh, she's smarter than you, Hemlock. Like, because he's cuffed them together. And then she pulls out her trusty little pick or knife to stab him in the leg, and Hunter, they recognize what's going on, and Hunter's like, you gotta go for the binders, and he's like, I can't, and Hunter's like, well, you gotta, so this is your moment, buddy-o. And it was
so fulfilling, and also like Hunter saying, you gotta trust Omega on this one, right? Like all of the things that they've been through with Omega, right? Like trying to chase her around and rescue her. And And like she is not like a damsel in distress, right? Like she has forged her identity. She knows what the heck she's doing, and it shows in this moment. And it's so freaking good, and I love it. And it's just, and also too, like Hunter and Crosshair, like they kind of had some back and forth when Crosshair joined the crew, and it was about like, oh, you're just mad because you lost her and I found her, and there was some like resentment and jealousy going on between the two of them. And now in this moment, like they're forced to put that aside. And I think they have been for, a couple episodes anyways, but like this is the moment when all of that being put aside matters the most, and recognizing like we both gotta grow up here and work together, and we gotta save her. Yeah, and trust her as well. And I love too that Hunter is helping Crosshair with his, I think like he's propping the gun on his elbow.
Yeah. His aim is like a rest for Crosshair's aim.
Yeah.
And they're all, it's a entangled web of trust, but it's really important.
This whole scene is just lit beautifully too, right? Like I know people are like, shows are too dark now. Like, but like this, I think it really worked here. I think it really worked here for me. Like with the flashes of lightning and kind of like the chaos of like uncertainty and like what's going on. Like I can't really see. And that's, you're kind of there with the characters also. Like Crosshair's trying to make that shot in the dark as well. Like that's difficult. It's a difficult situation. It's tumultuous, and Hemlock becomes target practice.
He really does. He gets shot many times in the chest.
Oh my God. It was so times. Good.
So
it felt like, it felt so comical. It felt like the ending of like a 90s movie or something, like a 90s action movie starring like Arnold Schwarzenegger, where like he says some sort of one liner of like, see you next fall, and then like shoots a villain like 20 times, and then like the villain falls over.
And you just did an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression on the pod.
See you next fall.
No, don't do it. That wasn't like a do it again. No.
Okay. You see what I mean, though? I feel like there's something there.
And I'll give you a little credit for your impressions. This is a little side tangent. I did read a little like Twitter post or whatever. It was like 90% of good friendships are just talking to each other in silly little voices. And I thought of Brad's Yoda impression. So you're just adding impressions to the bunch, such as your Nalase impression of Krennic.
The Death Star.
Speaking of Tarkin, who I almost said.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it. When he's like,
let's reallocate all these funds to Project Stardust, and I was like, yikes.
Yikadoodles.
Did
the
this
Bad
project
Batch cause the destruction of Alderaan? ?
Oh,
ouch.
Oh,
classic trolley problem.
We gotta end the pod. We gotta go. This episode's got to be over.
I would have liked to think that Project Stardust would be completed with or without Tantus, but damn, there is some.
It's feeling like it. Maybe not.
Yeah, there is some heartbreak there. Like one man's victory, one group's victory is another group's defeat.
Right.
Tarkin. Guess we'll find out what happens. Whatever Project Stardust is, I don't know. We'll
I've never heard of that before, so maybe it's fine.
Yeah,
not that.
Maybe it'll be on the spinoff show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I'd love to, like, once they all leave Tantus, like the ship's going to hyperspace, and immediately like the Star Destroyers coming out. I was like, damn, that was close.
Yeah,
like they were so
close.
Gotta go. That was like the most edging I've ever felt in the Star Wars. I was like, oh. Yeah, great moment though. Great moment. Okay. I love when Star Wars keeps you on the edge of your seat, grabbing the cushion. Anyways.
No comments. And then we go to Pabu, and then we get some sushi, and then all the kids are on Pabu, and we're gonna try and find their homes.
Yeah.
And then we're back to the end again.
Oh, feels good. Feels organic.
Good.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about the epilogue already, but again, I think I was hoping for an epilogue so bad. I think if there wasn't one, I would have been really disappointed, because as much as I love that final shot on Pabu, like I needed that closure with Omega to know, like, she grew up, She couldn't resist her leader instincts. She went on to fight a bigger battle, and that's the end of that story for now, right? Um, Sarah, how will you remember this series? Like when you look back on it and like considering the emotions that it elicited from us, like how will you reflect on the show going forward?
I will think to myself, Omega, comma, the love of my life, a powerful girl in the world. Like that, I mean, that at the end of it is where the heart of the show is for me. I love the Batch, but you know, if the Batch didn't exist and it was just Omega, I'd be okay too. You know, like Omega is such the emotional center of this show for me. And I love everything about her. And I just will be exceptionally grateful to this show for bringing us Omega, because I think she is absolutely everything. Like, this show may not be like my favorite animated show at the end of the day, but like, oh my God, Omega is the love of my life, the apple of my eye, you know, the entirety of my heart. Like, I just absolutely adore her. And so I'm just really grateful to this show for bringing her into the Star Wars universe. And I'm grateful that it gave her and her family a happy ending. So yeah, I'll think back on it with a smile.
Mm-hmm. Well said. I think she's certainly the emotional core, the heart of the show. Without Omega, I think the show doesn't work as well. She's the glue that holds it all together. Yeah,
Otherwise it'd just be a bunch of men.
Yeah. And we certainly haven't had enough men in Star Wars. That's for sure. No, I think like looking back on the show, it also like, it wasn't necessarily like my number one Star Wars thing, right? But I think the fact that I had the reaction I did, like literally crying and like sobbing in a way.
Right.
That's what I'll remember. I'll remember those emotions that it elicited at the end for me, right? So like, despite some of the slower paced episodes and you know some of the lulls that we hit here and there throughout the series, like looking back, I'm like, they hit the landing.
Yeah.
I left feeling uplifted, and that's what I look for in every Star Wars. Like, no matter what happens along the way, no matter the pitfalls and no matter the tragedy and no matter like who we lose along the way, as long as I leave that story feeling good about the world and like not feeling pessimistic and nihilistic about everything, I'll be pretty happy and I'll remember the project very fondly. You know, I think that way about the High Republic. Like, yes, we know what's ahead for the High Republic and the prequels. Like, yes, things have been really rough. You know, how many Jedi that we've lost, but I think at the end of the day, it's still a story about hope. This is still a story about not only hope, but family and found family and forgiveness. And those are all like beautiful things to explore in Star Wars. And I'm just happy that the show gave that to us and, you know, didn't hold back in those moments of light, in those moments of happiness and joy, despite all of the weight of things that we've had to face throughout this show.
Totally.
The dark moments, you know. It's not all like gritty and like macho and all that. It's like, it has a heart.
And the heart is big, you know.
And it's Omega shaped.
And and she's tall now.
Yeah.
She's like actually tall, and she wears a red hairband, and she's stunning and perfect, and I love everything about her.
Where would you like to see Omega next? Like, do you want to see her in another TV series? Do you want to see her in like live action? Do you want to see her in a book, a comic? Like, how do you see her story continuing, or like, how do you want to see it continue?
No thoughts, head empty. Do whatever you want as long as it's a happy ending, and I will be there. Literally, like, that's it. I don't know. I haven't even put any thought to that. I just feel like I'd be happy if she shows up again. I'd be happy to see her as just somebody in the background that we know is doing well. You know, I don't need her to be a main character. If the story doesn't call for it, but I'll take her anywhere.
I would love to see her in live action, because I think of the Ryloth arc, and you know, her and Hera Syndulla as kids were kind of vibing. I've already seen a lot of fan art of Hera and grown up Omega that has just warmed my heart. I'll send you a couple of that.
Yeah. What if I go cry right now?
And Omega says that she wants to be a pilot. So like I imagine, maybe she helps the Ghost Crew on a couple of missions, and maybe her and Hera have kept in touch all these years about like, hey, I want to be a pilot like Hera. Like we both want to be pilots. And, they're both coming into their own at the same time, like growing up together, keeping in touch somehow. Who knows? I think there's a story to be told there. And maybe she appears in a post Return of the Jedi timeline where her and Hera interact somehow. I don't know. We've already seen a Xiono in live action. So who's to say we can't see Omega at some point? Having a chat with Hera Syndulla. Who knows?
We gotta end the show.
Sarah's gonna lose it.
Oh, nope, keep it together, Sarah.
Marge Simpson meme holding the potato, but it's actually Omega. I just think she's neat.
Oh my god, the thought of like, nope. Okay, I can't.
Sarah can't even explore that avenue.
No, like I'm literally
Come on,
crying.
let it out.
Like
Let
literally
it
tears
out.
falling down my face right now.
We're not even at the hour 15 mark. You have time. You have time.
But I was like crying 2 minutes in this episode about how much I love Omega. Now we're just thinking about Omega and Hera. Like that's too much for me. I'm just a girl. I can't.
I'll make sure to
this.
send you the fan art after, and then you have to send me a picture of you crying hard just to make sure.
You're the only one that can literally see me crying right now.
This is why we're not a visual podcast.
If we were a visual podcast,
yeah,
that would be so messy. I'd be like
Sarah
crying
cries
all the time.
too much, and I look like a potato. So that's why we
but you
stick
have the
to
cool
the audio
lighting
only.
setup. I don't.
Mm.
It's really me looking like a potato.
You got some cool K-pop stuff going on in the background. You got a picture of a guy next to Erica Quill. Speaking of Alpha
That's
Squadron. Dino.
That's Dino.
Right. Yes.
So guys, I have a new you can't see it, but there's a new addition. See, we're not talking about Hera and Omega in order to not have me continue to cry. I'm now putting stuff on top of my bookshelves because I've kind of run out of space. And so I have my Alphabet Squadron book cover poster, and right next to it is Dino from 17, because it just makes sense. And then on the other side of it is my BTS Lego, but it's out of the shot. Brad can't see it. Thank you, Brad.
I'm glad you built it.
It's really cute. We can make them dance on the stage.
Most importantly. Yep.
Right.
Anyway, speaking of Legos,
I'm never gonna think about Hera and Omega again. I can't handle that emotionally. I'm too weak.
Speaking of Legos, I did build the Bad Batch Marauder ship a couple years ago, but it never had a Omega Lego as part of the set.
What?
Yeah. I'm a little sad about that. Can we make an Omega Lego, please?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know. I think it might have been like attached to the Clone Wars, like kind of marketing thing. So maybe that's why, but
that's really lame.
I would love an Omega and a Hera Lego of them and their ships.
Stop. I told you to stop talking about that. I can't do it.
I'm too weak. Oh, please. Speaking of impressions, that's my Palpatine impression. And we did not see Palpatine this episode. I surely thought we were going to get a little.
We got Tarkin. It's like close enough. Basically
Palpatine's right hand. But yeah, I think we've come to the end of the road, Sarah, for the Bad Batch. For everybody who's always listened to these episodes, these recaps, all of these years, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the journey along with us. It's been a fun one, and I'm excited for whatever's next for Star Wars animation. We just got Tales of the Empire, and I guess at this point we're not really sure what's next for animation, but I hope whatever it is has just as much heart and spirit as the show did. And I think we always need to retain that in the animated storytelling.
Yeah.
So
if you could have anything be the next animated project, what would it be?
I would have a show about Luke Skywalker and Ben Solo.
Ooh, like a Jedi show?
Yeah.
Cool.
Which, I don't know how you really end that.
Yeah, you were like, gotta keep the levity, and then you're like, Ben Solo turns into Kylo Ren, and that's the show.
Yeah, but I'm also very anti deep fake AI real people who are still living faces on the things. So I feel like an animated form for Han, Luke, and Leia is probably the best place to which I don't think this is going to happen, but like I feel like animation's the best place to continue those 3 stories post Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, the reason why they won't do that is because animation is like a
quote unquote
downgrade in storytelling, which is lame, but whatever.
And that's not even just like a specific to, Lucasfilm, just like a industry problem, I think.
Right. 100%. I would love to see, I know that we've seen them all in live action fairly recently, but I would love to see a young Leia animated show on Alderaan with Bail and Bria. I would love to see Bail.
I would also love that.
Not that I wouldn't want that in live action, because I totally would, but I think it would be like a perfect kind of setting for animation. What if we did it's not Rebellion era, but what if we did like High Republic Adventures characters in animated? Ram, Lula, Zine, Court Farzala.
I'm all for it.
Buckets.
Yeah.
A blood.
I would love a High Republic animated show. I mean, we're getting the Acolyte, so like Young Jedi Adventures. I think there's more there that can be tapped into that might be a little darker than Young Jedi Adventures, like maybe exploring some more of the nuances of that era.
Young Jedi Adventures is for, 3 to 6-year-olds. And that's not me. That's not me, saying anything negative about it. I'm saying, the particular stories they're telling are young, like easy to digest life lessons through the Star Wars lens, and within this realm. And I think it'd be cool to do a little bit older audience to kind of dive into different narratives more, as opposed to focus of an episode being on like one life lesson. You know what I'm saying? Just the age kind of dictates a different narrative structure.
Could also bridge the gap between Young Jedi Adventures and the Acolyte, where like as the Acolyte it's much more adult,
right?
An animated show could kind of fit in between. So like as those kids grow up from Young Jedi Adventures, they can watch that, and then when they're old enough, they can watch the Acolyte. Not that the Acolyte's going to be like so adult, but it's going to be dark. It's going to be like something you won't show your, probably your 9-year-old. I would imagine.
It delights me to know now though that like the jump from Young Jedi Adventures is probably Resistance right now.
Yeah.
Because, as a Resistan, I love that show. And
as long as it's still on Disney Plus.
I swear to God. I swear to God. It's very important to me.
Yeah.
But I like that, like the next level up, maybe before you jump to Clone Wars, it's going to be Resistance for those kids who come in through Young Jedi Adventures.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Resistance is still being remembered. I love that show. I always will love that show. And I'm happy that the folks who worked on that got to work on Bad Batch. And that's why we're sitting here today with smiles on our faces. So with that being said, Sarah, thank you for joining me. I think we had a lot of fun. However many episodes that we did on the Bad Batch. I think
I don't know how many episodes. Yeah, something like that. Because there were 47 episodes of the Bad Batch. We covered each and every one of them in season 1, and then we kind of shook it up in seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah. So it's been a long one. So yeah, I'm happy we got to do this together, and I can't wait until the next animated project, whatever it may be. Droid Story?
Where
are you at?
Where are you, Droid Story?
I'm out of the basement. You're there.
Please.
But yes, thank you everybody for tuning in for this episode and so many others. We appreciate it. If you want to hear more from us here on this podcast, follow us on all of our socials and any podcast feed of your choosing, so all of our new episodes drop into your feed, and leave us a rating if you enjoyed the episode. Help us know what you like about the show. And it always makes us feel happy, put more smiles on our faces when we get a review. So thank you.
True. Thank you to our patrons as well. AJ, Ben, Brian, Cheryl, Clay, David, Emma, Jennifer, Katie, Knights of Friend, Leanne, Logan, Lucy, Lindsay, Matthew, Nathan, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Skytalkers, Tim, Tom, Topher, and Travis for your support. We're very, 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 very grateful. And thank you to everybody who takes the time out of their day to listen to our episodes, because we know that time is both finite and precious. And we're grateful that you join us for our, Bad Batch discussions, other discussions. It means a lot. So I hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you're staying hydrated. And hope you join us again for the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you all once again. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.